Fireside Tales. Hello. I'm Merlin Mililli. Welcome to my fireside, where I tell weird tales within tales. And I drink coffee. I drink coffee from my skull mug because I'm a deadhead. So, also because I'm a deadhead, I tell the story of the Grateful Dead every week here at Fireside Tales. But not just because I'm a deadhead, but because I believe it's a story about reincarnation. And reincarnation is something that we discuss here at Fireside Tales every week. We discuss a place called the Akasha, or the Akashic Records. And my book in the Akashic Records. The Akashic Records is a place that you can only reach through meditation. And it's a place that, pardon Bear drinking, I don't know if you can hear him slurping. He's not a clean drinker at all. He makes a giant puddle around his whole dish. But he's having a bevy. It's my dog. Though his name is Little Bear and he thinks he's a bear. In fact, he's sure of it. So, my book in the Akashic Records consists of where my soul has been and when my soul has been. It's a record of my soul. And my soul has not just lived in this body. So it's a record of the bodies I've lived in and died in. And the bodies and the lives that those bodies lived. So this all gets rather confusing. Making the show has actually helped me to organize it in my head a little better so that it's not so confusing. So every week I've been discussing the Akasha and my book there, and every soul has a record of its whereabouts and whenabouts. And so if you have a soul, your soul has a book in the Akashic Records. I was given a key to the Akashic Records by my spirit guides when I was still a teenager. So once I had my key, I would go with my spirit guides to the Akasha and we would look at my book. And my book is kind of big. There's a lot to look at. So it took me a long time to even get through the whole thing. And it takes even longer because I nor anyone else really understood what I was doing, what I was understanding. So this is based on reincarnation, because without that concept, my book couldn't exist in the way that it does. And I'm not talking about being a zombie or possessing a body that isn't mine or anything like that. I'm talking about reincarnation. And we talk at length about reincarnation here on Fireside Tales because I'm a firm believer in it. And I'm making this show so that other people can understand it, because a lot of people really don't seem to understand it. So I have these threads in my book that sort of connect each life to each other life. And fire is one of those threads. Fire safety is something we discuss here at Fireside Tales because I live in California and fire safety has always been obviously important to me. I think I've always been an earth worshiper, even if I was like Catholic or something, I was still more of an earth worshiper. I started being an earth worshiper and I'm still an earth worshiper. Smudging is another one of my threads that we discuss here every week at Fireside Tales. This is dried sage. When it's put in a bundle, it's called a smudge stick. Burn the sage like an incense. And it's an aura cleanser. Cleanses your aura. Make sure I didn't get fire. So that's for your exterior and getting rid of negativity that might build on your aura from other people, from like projection and stuff like that, or situations that are prickly or whatever. Dispels negative energy when you use the sage. And then another thread of mine is grounding. Graceful. I'm wearing my red and white blue suede shoes because I'm a deadhead. I might be Annie Sam. Got Two pairs of socks on today. It's a two pair of sock kind of day. Snowing, sitting by the fire. Two pairs of socks. So I like to take my shoes off, obviously, for grounding. You just get a better feel for it. Barefoot in the sand is like the best way to ground, but it's an exercise for clearing the negative energy from your insides. So you want to blow out all the negative energy. Breathe in positive energy. And think an ultra positive thought. Until you blow out positive energy. So it's a breathing exercise, obviously, and you're cleansing your insides. Now, I've been doing both smudging and grounding for lifetimes, all of my lifetimes. It started with my first lifetime. The first one in my book. I don't know that there's any more, but those are the ones that are recorded. I don't think there's any more, but who am I to say, really? I just know it's recorded. So I'll put my red and white blue suede shoes back on, but it might take a little shoving because I have two pairs of socks on. So meditating is how I get to the Akashic records, but it's also a thread of mine that connects each life to the next. Also astral projection, which we've also discussed here on Fireside Tales, and interdimensional travel, being a medium and a psychic. We'll come back to that one. Now, I'm going to tell you the story of the Grateful Dead, as I heard it from a deadhead by a fire, as it should be told. Once, long, long ago, there was a traveler. It was so long ago that she traveled on foot. One day while she was traveling along, she happened upon a little village. And in the little village, she noticed a crowd. As she got closer, she noticed that the crowd was arguing. as she got closer still, she noticed that the crowd was arguing over a dead body. They were arguing over who was going to pay his debts, who was going to bury him, who was going to pay for that. The traveler thought this was rather distasteful, disrespectful, and almost hurtful until she stepped in and decided that that was enough of that. And she paid the dead man's debts. And she paid for a proper burial. And she prayed over the dead man's body. And she traveled on. And then one day, decades later, the traveler, the same one from the beginning of the story, happened upon a life or death situation in which, out of nowhere, a stranger just swoops her up and saves her life. The traveler is taken aback. Thank you, she says. Where did you come from? Who are you? Why did you save my life? And the stranger simply says, I am the Grateful Dead. It's a story about reincarnation. Real reincarnation. I'm not talking zombies or corpses. Corpses don't save lives. Zombies don't save lives. It's just not a thing. Reincarnated people, they can save lives. Now, there was a dead man there in that village. His soul went from the dead body into a brand new little baby body, and he lived a new life to adulthood, remembering what the traveler had done for his soul to put it at peace. And he felt he should repay that favor. So he saved her life. I think it's a beautiful story. Some people think it's creepy. I guess because I've been reincarnated so many times, I don't find discussing it creepy. In fact, I'm more creeped out by people who don't believe in reincarnation than by people who do. Though, because I'm a psychic medium, I also have access to spirits, and I communicate with them regularly, and I have been since I was a little girl, and like I said, it's a thread, so that thread has run through every one of my lives up until this one, and I still have that. So the spirits say that reincarnation happens when someone is murdered. You get to come back and try again. It's kind of nice. But if that's the case, and my book is huge, and I've lived 23 plus lives, I think that would also say that I've been murdered a lot. Excuse me. Last season, I talked about each of the lives in my book a little. This season, I've decided to go all the way back to the first life in my book and cover each life extensively. So, my book has a watermark. And before the watermark, everything is light and dry and sandy. And after the watermark, everything is dark and wet and muddy. Before the watermark, all my lives are extremely long, like thousands of years long. After the watermark, my lives are much shorter. The watermark also seems to mark when BC changed to AD. This is really hot. I'm going to give my shoulder a little break. Okay, so, excuse me. This season, I've decided to go all the way back to the first life in my book and cover each life extensively. Like I said, this season we have been discussing my very first life in my book, that of Little Flower, an ancient Mayan who not only lived for over 1,000 years, but also lived 10,000 years ago. We have discussed many of my threads that started here with Little Flower. We have discussed her culture. We have discussed her history, what we know, and her story, what I know, of this place we now call Machu Picchu. We have discussed Little Flower's birth parents, her childhood, her schooling, her teen years, her higher education, her professions. She had more than one. Her life, her love. She just had the one. Imagine thousands of years in love with one person. That's love. So we have discussed murder. We've discussed reincarnation being one of the threads, obviously, and angels and light also being threads that started here with Little Flower. We've discussed motives for her murder. People might have had to kill her. But today we are going to discuss the afterlife. Little Flower's afterlife. Last season I told you that Little Flower, well, that after I was Little Flower, I became a cloud bird. I've since been forced to question this cloud bird. Most of my lives in my book just pass one into another, and there's no real afterlife. But for this one, I seem to have had an afterlife. I was asked recently if a cloud bird could be an angel. I dismissed that because I just don't think that highly of myself. And I always felt like this cloud bird state was a penalty for either interdimensional travel or for managing to get my whole tribe murdered. I kind of did do that. But the angels told me to stop calling this cloud bird state a penalty. Angels. And I'm not really certain how long I was in this state, but I think it was thousands of years. Because it is in the light, dry, sandy part of my book. But it was a between life thing. I think sometimes spirits get hung up while the powers that be decide if we were murdered or not. I wonder how they do that. After I'm a cloud bird, I end up in ancient Tibet, living a life as a Buddhist monk. But in both cases, I fell to the service of others and didn't really live my own full life. Though I can discuss things about the Buddhist monk, like their birth parents and their profession and schooling and all that. It's just, I'm not sure I'm at liberty to. I took a lot of oaths as a monk to not discuss any of that with anyone. So I'm not sure I will include the cloud bird or the Tibetan monk in giving those lives a whole season. I think next season we'll just go right into ancient Egypt. And that's where everything gets really interesting anyway, so. I mean, to me, excuse me, the Buddhist monk is really interesting, but that stuff isn't all that interesting to everyone in TV land out there. So I'm probably just going to skip over those two. But I have all summer to figure it out, so I'm not going to worry about that just yet. We are wrapping up the season. I'll make 2 more episodes, and then I'm done for a while. Hopefully, I'm going to be touring this summer. With any luck. At the very least, I want to go tour with Dead and Company and see how that goes. But we'll see how everything goes. So every week here at Fireside Tales, I also sing a song about reincarnation. I started out singing David Crosby's Deja Vu, but now I've written a song. So every week I've been singing my song Before. It's called Before. Strangely, I sing it after. Maybe I should intro instead of outro, but hey, this is what we're doing. Reincarnation, 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 reincarnation. I'm back, I'm back, I'm back. Somebody stabbed me in the back, and now I'm back. I'm back. I'm back. But I lack memory of who I was. I must look back, but I lack memory of who I was. Before, before, before. Then I opened the door and I found out who I'd been. Before, before, before. Who I was, when I was, where I was. Before, before, before. Then I opened the door to find it there. No more, no more, no more. Before, before, before. So that's before, after. Well, I guess that's about it for me today. I hope I enlightened some people at least just a little bit about reincarnation. That's our purpose here. Fireside Tales. So, have a weird and wonderful weekend. Thanks for starting it by our fireside.